Hello again everyone, sorry I've been away for a while, but I've just realised at the last video I left you having edited your photograph with the basics of how to do most of your editing within Lightroom, but I left you without telling you how to get the images out of Lightroom into whatever you want to do, into a JPEG file to be submitted as a digital upload for Facebook, for Twitter, for Instagram, or for bringing to the club for competition, or how to send the image to a printer. I'll start with the exporting as a file. So you might recall that way back at the beginning I said that Lightroom works by leaving your original image file untouched. Lightroom creates a recipe based on all the things you've done to that image file in your editing and your developing, and then applies the two when you go to export the finished version. So here I have an image that I took with Simon and Willie back in December when we had a day out, and I've decided I want to create a JPEG here. So how do I do that? Well, within Lightroom the thing to do is to export it. There's several ways of doing this. You can do it as a single image or you can do it in a batch. Let's do a single image first. I'm in the library view, as you can see. I could be doing this from the grid view, but I'm just showing you the whole thing. Let's go to grid and select the image I want to export. You can right click on there, and from there, as you see, there's an option to export, and there's various presets that I've set up for this one, but let's go into the full export dialog so you can see what that shows. So that's there. If you don't want to go through that version of it, having selected the image, you can do at the top file and export, which gets you the same option. Export with the presets that we had on the right click menu. Whichever way you want to do it, you can do it. There are some presets that come with Lightroom. They call burn full-size JPEGs. That's from the old days when you had a DVD or a CD that you might want to burn it to, but that's still the same option. There's an export it to a DNG file, which is a particular file format, or you can send it for email, which will connect up with your email system and give you a particularly small resolution version. If you don't want to use the preset, you go through the full export thing, which is the first option. But just to let you know, what I've done here is I've created a few presets which match the requirements I normally have. The SPF, for example, requires 1600 by 1200, so I've got a preset for that. Facebook, the best image resolution for Facebook is 960 pixels on the longest side, so my Facebook 960 JPEG is the size that I export, which can then be uploaded to Facebook. And Google Photos, which is another place I tend to use things, has a 2000 by 2000 ideal size, which is the largest free size, I think. So I've got a Google preset. But let's go through the full dialog so you can set up your own. So export with the three little dots, the ellipsis, means there's something to come up. And here you have the export. Where do you want to export it to? The hard disk will put it somewhere on your hard disk. You could put that to your thumb drive if you want to. If you start with a burn full-size JPEG preset, Lightroom preset, these are the presets that are there again, start with that. As I say, that burn full-size JPEG was originally designed for CDs and DVDs, so let's reroute that to the hard disk. I want to export it to a specific folder, but I want to choose a folder later because it's going to be a preset. So next time I use this, once I've made a preset from it, I can pick where I want it to go, either onto the desktop for a temporary upload or onto a thumb drive or something like that. You can, if you want to, put it into a subfolder. If you want to export it and keep that version beside the raw file, you can add it to the catalogue, which then means it will be side by side with the original. If there are existing files at the destination location and this is the same name, it will ask you what to do with it. If you want to rename the file, you can do so on the way out. I tend to export mine with the same name, so I don't use this, but you could rename it and put in custom names and so on. I'm not going to do that on this occasion. I'll keep it with the same video we're not looking at. The file settings. Because this preset was designed to be making full-size JPEGs, it's not going to do anything other than leave the image format as a JPEG, although if you wanted PSDs for Photoshop, TIFFs, you could do so. The quality level, if you want to make the quality smaller for a smaller file size, you can reduce the image quality. This is full size and full resolution, so this is 100% quality, no reduction. The color space for most displays, sRGB is what most computers and the internet can see, so for the purposes of JPEGs I tend to stay with sRGB. And if you wanted to keep this file size particularly small, you could limit the file size and say what size you want as a maximum, and it will automatically calculate what quality it wants. I'm not interested in keeping this file sizes small at this point, so I'm leaving that there. For later, if we wanted to resize to fit, for example, to the SPF sizing of 1600 by 1200, you can use this option. And it will tell you resize to fit the longest edge, the shortest edge, the number of megapixels. I would tend to use width and height. So I would say I want it 1600 wide by 1200 high, 1600 wide, 1200 high. Resolution doesn't really matter because I'm not doing it by inches, but if you wanted to, you could make inches or centimeters. Resolution is irrelevant here. So that would give me a JPEG at 100% quality that is fitting within the SPF sizes. If I'm setting up a preset, for example, for the SPF, I want it screen sized because I'm not going to send it to a printer. You could set it with sharpening for different types of paper, and I just want standard screen sharpening. There's then options of doing other things to it afterwards. After you've exported, you can take the metadata out. For example, if you've put people's names or locations on the photos and you don't want those in the file, you can remove them. If you want to add a watermark, you can do so. And if you want to do, once you've exported it, you want to do something like show it in the Finder or in Explorer for Windows, or open it in other applications, you can do so. I don't want to do anything. So I'm checking what I'm doing. I'm exporting it to a folder, not specifying at this point which one. Well, you could, for example, say desktop. I don't want to put it in a subfolder, so I just want it loose on the desktop. Now, if if I wanted to create that as a preset, I can simply add the settings that I've now got and call it SPF to desktop. So now I have a preset here that's going to send the file that I select to the desktop with the original name in JPEG format, the sRGB color space, fitting within 1600 by 1200 pixels and sharpened for screen. So it's ready for display on a screen. And then I just click export. Up here on the top left you'll see export one file. It's now doing the job. The progress bar will come up as it gets on with that. And we can see that's whizzed along fairly quick. And it's done. And I'll minimize this to show the desktop. Here I have that file on my desktop, which is ready for display. I'll bring Lightroom back up. I can do that with a number of images. If I had 3 or 4 that I wanted to do, I could select a batch of them, right click, export, and I've now got in this SPF to desktop option, I can use that preset. If I click that, I'll just straight away export all of those images. It's asking me what to do because I've already exported one of them. I'm going to overwrite that one. It's now taking, as you see on the top left, those 7 files. It's taking the originals, it's applying whatever editing I've been doing to them within Lightroom. It's then creating the JPEG files at 1600 by 1200 pixels and saving those exported files on the desktop. The original files are still in my original location, and whatever I want to do with these files on the desktop, I can bin them when I finish with them, I can do whatever. These originals are still in Lightroom and will not be affected. So these 7 files are nearly finished exporting now, and when it has, I'll just minimize the Lightroom to show the desktop. And here we now have all of them. As JPEGs, you'll see. And if I get the information on one of them, you'll see that the dimension is 1600 by 1200. It's a JPEG and the color profile is sRGB. So there you go. That's how you get your JPEGs out of Lightroom. You can then upload them to whatever destination you wish. The Facebook pages, in this case these are SPF sizes, so I would use those to put onto my thumb drive by just dragging and dropping them onto the thumb drive and bring them in for a competition. Well, perhaps not, but that's what I could do. Obviously, if I wanted to upload a smaller version for Facebook, right click, export the Facebook 960 size. If I go to this one, you'll see that the Facebook 960 option is here in the dialog. Again, it's choosing the folder later, and what I'm doing here is I'm limiting the file size to 100K, so it's a small file. I'm resizing it to fit on this occasion the long edge, 960 pixels, which is the recommended maximum size for Facebook uploads, and the resolution right down to 72 pixels per inch, which is the recommended resolution for screen display. So I can create those very quickly and very easily just using that export, without even having to go through the dialog once I've done the preset. So once you've got that set up, very simple, very easy to resize them. If you're doing competition, you want to bring in a full resolution one. Here I've got full size JPEG onto the hard disk. By standard I would do that. So this is full 100% quality, full resolution at 240 plus pixels per inch, which is good for printing. So I could just run a batch of exports at the SPF size and then run it again with the full size to hard disk, and in both those occasions I very quickly produce both the full resolution and the display version for Camera Club competitions. That's all there is to it. Next video I'll just go into the printing. Thanks for listening.